Y'all, we have the man with the master plan. I told you at the top of the show that we were going to have a very, very special guest, and indeed we do. Born in 1997, Lord,
Oh
Tiffany
my
Angela.
God. I graduated
We
from high
are
school the
old
next
and
year.
Okay.
and all American at everything. A wonderful, wonderful, wonderfully good friend and member of the United States Congress, Maxwell Alejandro Frost. Some of you all who are in the state of Florida will know a bit about Maxwell, but he does represent Florida's 10th congressional district in the United States Congress, was elected in 2023, a member of the Democratic Party, but being in Congress was not his first foray, if you will, into politics. Prior to that, he was the national organizing director for March for Our Lives. You all will recall that organization, the guns, safety, and regulations organization, basically the voice of young people saying our lives matter. He was elected at the ripe old age of 25 years old, y'all, count at 25. Again, first generation Zer in the United States Congress. And I could not think, and Angela gets credit for having thought of this initially, but we couldn't think of a better person to address you all's questions about organizing. How do we fight back? What should we be doing? Give us some instruction. By the way, what the hell is going on in Washington? And why isn't somebody checking President Trump and President Musk? Well, we've got some answers for you, everybody. Will you all please join me in welcoming the one and only Congressman Maxwell Frost? What's up, brother?
Hey, good to be here. Appreciate you all having me.
Are you kidding, man? It's our treat to have you. I am curious, Congressman, as a representative from our great state of Florida, how you holding up there? I mean, we got a dose of what autocracy, or at least a thriving autocrat, look like down here in Florida.
Exactly.
So I know you weren't caught off total guard, but honestly, man, can you level with our listeners? What has it felt like these past, 3 weeks, 4 weeks,
Yeah.
3 weeks?
I mean,
Under this new administration as a member of Congress.
no, I appreciate the question. And, something I told people as I traveled the country last year during the election is I said, listen, I know we're all worried about Project 2025, but I want you to know that Project 2025 is Florida 2024.
Yeah.
And the things they want to do to this country, we've been fighting against for many, many years under an authoritarian governor with a legislature that most of the time acts like a lapdog and will do whatever he wants. And we've seen the political repression. We've seen our own duly elected officials taken out of office. People like Monique Worrell, she got her seat back, thank God. And so I bring this up to say that being from Florida, we're used to this and we get it. And we understand that, I feel like a lot of people have taken a lot of things for granted. And now that everything is so chaotic, a lot of folks don't know what to do and they're scared. And I understand that because there's a lot of things to be scared about. For me, it's simply seen as the battle in Florida and in the South has now been drawn out to the whole country in terms of fighting neo-fascism, fighting an authoritarian leader, and making sure that we both work on the inside and the outside at the same time to not be, and I've been saying this a lot, decide to, even though we have less seats in Congress, not be the minority and be the opposition. And I take that from foreign countries. Oftentimes in foreign countries in the legislature, the minority is not called the minority. They're called the opposition party. And I think we're at a point right now, especially with this president, where things aren't normal. This isn't President Mitt Romney, or John McCain, or this isn't a normal Republican presidency. This is an authoritarian leader who has invited the billionaires and big corporations to work within the White House to do whatever they see fit to make things work for them even more. It's the great betrayal because he traveled this country and told people he was going to shake up the system for them, but we all knew it was a bunch of BS. So a lot of feelings, but look, I'm fortified in the stories of my district and my home. I'm so excited to go home tomorrow to be with my people, to talk to people about the real life impacts of what's going on, to organize at home, and then come back and continue to fight.
I have to ask you, there's been a lot of a conversation, and this is why I reached out to you about you all being outside of the Department of Education last week. You held up your camera and it said all access entrance.
Yep.
And you all were blocked by some random white man with a fluorescent Band-Aid on his neck. I still haven't seen his papers. I feel like you should have to show papers if you're going to block members of Congress who want answers for their constituents. And you all are charged with oversight, whether it's in a congressional hearing room or it is going to an agency that is supposed to report back to Ranking Member Bobby Scott and everybody else who's on the Education Committee. And so I'm curious to know, when you hear folks saying like, well, when I look at these members of Congress who can't even get in, they didn't push through, they look weak. Right. And that's frustrating to hear, for me to hear, because I'm like, these people are my family. They went down there because they're not getting answers on the Hill. So they went to the agency to figure out what's going on. How did it feel to not get in? And what do you think about that when people say that looked weak? And what do you think your responsibility is when you can't get in to an all access entrance that we all should be able to get in?
100%. No, I appreciate you bringing this up, because even a few days earlier, I had organized about 24 members of Congress to go to the Department of Treasury when we heard that Elon had access to our Social Security numbers and all of our sensitive information. And so usually as a member of Congress, you know, we call people from the department to come to us, right? Come to a committee, come do a meeting. But it's been crickets, right? Because of this Elon Doge takeover. And so, like you mentioned, you know, Andrew, I come from organizing. So I was like, you know what? I think we're just going to have to pull up. And we're going to have to pull up with the people. And that's what we did at the Department of Treasury. We pulled up. Yes, we were denied access by Secret Service on that Monday. But then we went out to, you know, Move On, Indivisible, and Working Families Party, brought together about over 1,000 people when we rallied in front of Treasury. And I think it showed that fight that we're looking for. Now, with Department of Education, there was a similar action where we were trying to get in. I will admit, you know, I think there's a lot of videos I posted, and this is something, especially from the Black Lives Matter uprising, that, you know, you're out there and I'm just constantly taking content and posting raw content so people can see what's going on. And I guess, you know, as a politician, I need to review it a little bit more to make sure it's telling the full story, because a lot of people are just not, you know, they don't fully understand what happened there. If the doors were unlocked and it was just that skinny guy trying to keep us out, I promise you we would have gone in the building. Okay. But the problem is all the doors were locked, and I don't even know why he stepped outside. He didn't need to step out. The doors were completely locked. And on the other side of those doors were like 8 armed DHS officers. Okay. And so that's why we weren't, you know, why we couldn't get in the building. And I had staff walk around the whole building, check on other entrances to see how we could get in. But, you know, a big part of this is being strategic, too. I saw some other people saying, why didn't you throw a brick in the building? Well, I didn't, you know, I didn't throw a brick in the building for many different reasons. But I do resent people, you know, who were saying, well, you're too scared to get arrested. I've been arrested multiple times. I've been to jail. In the jail I now represent in Congress. I've been, you know, physically assaulted by police. And so this isn't stuff that it's not a question of whether or not you're afraid to do it. And I only speak for myself. I can't speak for everybody else, but it's a question of strategy too. We're in a position right now where Republicans only have a 2-seat majority in the House, and we're about to come up to this huge budget fight that can have real implications for Medicaid, for healthcare, for Social Security, for food stamps. They just released a budget plan where they want to cut 20% of all food stamps. They want to cut $800 million out of Medicaid. I mean, this is serious stuff. And so you know, we have to be strategic. You never know. We have to utilize every vote in the House of Representatives right now. We need to stay strong on our values. And I just don't want to be in a situation where, you know, you throw a brick or you do something and we end up, you know, in jail fighting something for months. I'm sure the Speaker of the House, I'm sure the Speaker of the House would love nothing more than to have some young progressive members of Congress dealing with some legal stuff and not being able to vote. You know, and then a lot of those same people online said, well, you'd only be in for 15 minutes. You're a member of Congress. And I'm like, wait, you're saying we're at the level where I need to throw a brick in a building to fight the authoritarianism. But then you think that when I get arrested, they're going to let me out in 15 minutes?
Right.
So the math ain't mathin'. No. I think they're going to use everything they can and every excuse they can to assert to assert their authority on us. And we got to be careful and strategic. I'm not saying that there's not room for civil disobedience. I'm not saying there's not room for these things. I'm just saying let's be strategic here and let's work together and figure out what the proper way forward is. And I think there's a lot of things we can do within Congress to push back, to delay, to obstruct. You know, I heard someone tell this joke. Think about what Mitch McConnell would do if he were in the minority and then do it. You know?
That's right.
Because they did this to us
That's right.
for so many times. And again, it's about that state of mind. Are we the minority or are we the opposition?
Congressman, I'm grateful to you for joining us, and thank you for giving that context. I do just want to say respectfully to you, because I completely hear your point, and I think that is really important to know that there were armed guards there in the real process. But respectfully, I do understand people saying that the Democratic Party looks weak. There are millions of people across this country who do not follow the minutia of government. They don't even know about the standoff at the department. They don't even know that you all were outside, which is a challenge, right? Because the media is so complicit in this with this authoritarian regime. But on the other side of that, it is incumbent, I think, on elected representatives to energize from the bottom up. And you need, grassroots organizations to do that. You also need your elected representatives. We were having a conversation yesterday about what resistance looks like. And one of our friends was giving off the dome, was giving a list of things that should be happening and, suggested holding field hearings and suggesting, saying, hey, here is how these actions impact people. And there does seem to be a communications problem. Respectfully, we have a lot of octogenarians and septuagenarians in Congress. And you, as somebody who's a Gen Zer, I just wonder what your perspective is when it comes to this constant promotion of respectability politics. We've always talked about racism is bipartisan. It is not specific to Republicans. So for the young people who don't follow the minutia of this and they're looking to you as their peer saying, hey, what do we do? Because right now, standing outside a building is not putting food on the table. We still haven't heard about the cost of eggs, which is what he's run on. And people's lives are being immediately and directly impacted. And they are looking to their representatives for more immediate relief. So what is your response to them?
No, I appreciate it. And I want to be clear, too. What I was just saying is really in reference to that specific video and that specific situation, what people were saying about that. The reason I organized 24 members of Congress to go to Treasury overnight that last Monday is because I saw what people were saying. Because I heard from my colleagues that people were saying, we're getting all these calls. What do we do? And I said, well, I'm gonna put on my organizer cap because we got to organize right now. So I'm fully on board. I'm not here to tell people, oh, like calm down, chill out. No, this isn't a time for chilling out. This is a time for organizing and doing everything we can. And I think as elected members of Congress, it's incumbent upon us, especially we don't have the White House. There's not a ton of leadership going on in the Senate. So we are the national party per se. And so we got to provide that national leadership. So there's a few things. Number one, believe it or not, I'm one of, I think it's less than 5 members of Congress that do year-round organizing. So what does that mean? I have a organizing director year-round on my campaign. We pay 3 cohorts of organizers every year, and we're always knocking doors, always doing events, whether or not I have a serious race or not, or a primary or not, because I don't think we should be holding on to all this money and not organizing in our communities. That's right. And so a big call to action I have out to a lot of my colleagues, but just a lot of elected officials in general, is use this moment to organize people. I think, when we go back home for the next week, we've been encouraging people, do your town halls, do your events to answer questions, to talk to people about what's going on, what's at stake, what fights are ahead of us. And then when you come back, host those organizing events, those rallies. You might have to use some of your campaign cash to hire an organizer. I know that's not normal for politicians to do that, this early on, but do it, right? To help get people energized about something. So I'm hosting a few town halls when I get home, but we're not stopping at the town halls. We're going to be putting together our organizing launch so people in Florida's 10th congressional district can come and learn about and get plugged in with a community on how they can organize. I think a big thing here is we can't allow the energy to just live online right now. I think we have to provide leadership in person in our districts to plug people into a political home. And we have to be willing to say, it might be with me, it might be with Dream Defenders, it might be with March for Our Lives, it might be with a different organization. But however you get involved. And I think we have to be a conduit for a lot of these folks who they follow us. A lot of their advocacy is mainly stuck online, but now they're like, tell me what to do. Right. And whether that's calling legislators or calling into these 2 special elections we have in Florida right now, or whether it's direct action and protest, or maybe it's more mutual aid, right? Which we need a lot of that too, especially in a state like Florida. We need direct services. Plugging into all of that, I think, is really important. And I think, a lot of times politicians have a very adverse reaction to the advocacy world, because our feet are being held to the fire.
Mm-hmm.
And I get where people are coming from, but I think it's important. We have to be the bridge builders. We can't be here to tear people apart. I'll give you an example as a little bit moment of vulnerability here for myself. When I posted that video of Department of Education, there were some folks who were, saying, well, why didn't you punch the guy and get arrested and this and that? I made a rather irate post on Blue Sky saying like, y'all don't know anything about my past. Like I used to do this stuff and yada, yada, yada. Like I understand there's a time and place. I ended up deleting it because here's my thing. We are fighting fascism right now and authoritarianism. And I don't think that we're in a position where I need to use as an elected official a single percentage of rage or anger towards people I broadly agree with. I want to save every drop of that for the opposition and fighting on behalf of my people, even if I might have a disagreement with somebody online or something like that. And I think we really have to have that way of thinking that we need to. Part of what makes the Democratic Party powerful is the fact that it's a coalition. I've joked with people we should change our name from the Democratic Party to the Democratic Coalition, because that's what we are, a coalition. So I think as leaders, we have to, let's not be mad when people are calling our offices like they are. Because a big reason why we're getting so many calls is because a lot of our organizers and activists live in the blue districts. And so they're calling their member of Congress, which happens to be a Democrat. And so how do we take those calls and put them into action? And I think we all have to be thinking about that. And it's really important. So I appreciate the question, because I don't think this is a moment for complaining. It's a moment for organizing. And I think there's a playbook at home, which is really important and in our districts. And then there's obviously the playbook up here, using every single parliamentary tactic that we can, trying to catch them off guard. We did a motion to subpoena Elon Musk. We caught these people off guard. We only lost that by 1 vote. We're very much outnumbered on that committee. We should have lost it by like 7, which means we keep trying that. We keep doing these things every chance that we get, and we don't stop, and we obstruct this horrible agenda at every corner.
Really quick, Andrew, I want you to chime in, but I want to just go here really quick because you brought it up. You broadly agree with the folks that are even offering criticism. We need to save all of this energy for the opposition. And you also talked about, I want to reference, there are a lot of folks who are frustrated, apparently. There's reporting that says that members are frustrated with Indivisible. You brought them up. And it is so mind-blowing to me that folks would be upset about people organizing to protect their rights, their taxpayer dollars. What do you say to your colleagues who are allegedly frustrated with the people that you're talking about coordinating to work alongside to protect what America's supposed to be, which is this democracy, albeit fragile? What do you say to that?
What I would tell my colleagues, and broadly kind of any elected who's feeling this pressure, is see it as an opportunity to move angst, anger, that's very much justified. I mean, we're watching this stuff happen. We're watching Project 2025 happen in front of our eyes, and move that into action, move it into something, and help, direct it if need be, and work with people. Like for me, if I'm being protested by someone, my first inclination, unless it's the Proud Boys or something like that, then I'll just be like, all right, well, screw you, But if it's my own people that I broadly agree with, I think the solution there is meet with them, figure out how you can work together to push people. I think what a lot of members are saying is they're saying, why am I getting all these calls when these Republicans in districts that Kamala Harris won that we need for the majority aren't getting calls, And I think that's like the main thing people are saying. And so, and I get that sentiment, but here's the thing. complaining about it isn't going to change anything, but reaching out to the organizations, working with the people locally will help. Indivisible happens to have big chapters in Democratic districts. Why? Because Democrats live in Democratic districts, right? And so that's a big reason why this is happening. And so how do we reach out to those organizations, set up the roundtables, do a power building thing on the campaign side? I'm in my official office, so do something on the campaign side and talk about like, hey, maybe I'll put together, maybe we do an organizing launch together. Maybe we identified 3 Republicans that we can all call collectively. I don't know, something like that. But, again, my thing is like, we are a team and the opposition wants us to all be kind of bickering with each other. And they want the elected officials to be complaining about the activists and the organizers. And I don't think that's our place. I think our place is to show that leadership, come together and figure out how are we going to oppose this. People are rightfully scared and they want the leadership and they want to be pointed in the right direction. Like, hey, yo, tell me where to go. Tell me what to do. I want to help out. For me as an organizer, I'm like, wait, this is like a pot of gold because usually we're scratching for people to, usually that's why we have to knock doors, right? Yeah. We knock doors because we have to go to the people to kind of shake them and say, yo, get involved. But now the people are coming to us. So
they're angry, yes, but they're mostly scared.
Exactly.
That all the foundational pieces, all of the supports, we're looking up every single day. Our heads are on a swivel.
Yep.
And I have to share in the vulnerability of this all because I kept saying, I'm sorry, did anybody take Donald Trump seriously? Right. Project 2025 during the campaign, we went out and sold it to people like it was the threat of our lives. And then it seemed like everybody, DC on down, appeared to be in shock. And nobody shook off the shock over the point of transition. We came into this man's government and, and everybody's shock and awe when if you just looked at the 900 pages, all of it is right there. All of it is right there. So, Congressman, I just want to give you further encouragement to help to embolden your colleagues that when I was first elected mayor, my first big public event, I had to cut this ribbon and thousands of people were going to run through it. And do you know, lo and behold, Dream Defenders sat down in front of the stage where I was speaking. They shut me down from speaking and brought the whole event to a standstill. And this is only a few months after, during the campaign of me running for mayor, that I helped get them out of jail, bought them food into the Capitol when they slept there for 30 days. And I, like you, took offense. That was ego. And then I realized that I'm the right person for them to shut down. I am Andrew, I'm their guy, but I'm also the mayor, which made me the head of the police department, which made me the titular head of the city, of the community. And so if they needed to bring their issues to bear, you know what? I'm in the position that I should be taking the incoming, just as you determined that you were the right person to be taking the incoming and getting ego out of the way. And so I would just encourage you with the members, screw the ego. We need organizing. And the rule book has been thrown out. It's been thrown out a long time ago. And I just think I was very clear about what Democrats were not going to do, which was chase Donald Trump around and try to answer to all of his antics. Well, I'm more interested in what we are going to do by way of a pushback against him and less about the red lines that we're not going to cross and try not to run behind everything that he throws here, left or right. You know what? If he's going to consume the media space, y'all ought to be consuming that space just like him.
What I've been telling people is when someone's coming up and asking you, what are we going to do? What can we do? Or expressing that anger. No one wants to hear what power we don't have, right? I think a lot of people know they generally understand what's going on. But I think they want to hear with what power we have, what are we going to do? And that's something I used to always tell people on during the Black Lives Matter uprising is when you don't have all the power you want, you best use all the power you got.
Come on.
And this is the moment where we have to use all the power we got. Again, it might not be all the levers we want, but we deal in reality. And I think, we providing that leadership is going to give people the energy that they need. Because, I know we're at time, but I think a lot of members of Congress think in 2-year increments, right? They're thinking about the midterm. How can we get the gavels? But the fact of the matter is we don't have 2 years to to wait, right? I mean, this is going on now. No. And so I think it's both the best thing to do from an organizing perspective in terms of pushing back, in terms of hopefully obstructing. I mean, look, we've had some wins as the public. I mean, we pushed back that OPM memo, the tariffs. He completely folded on the tariffs. Why? Because everybody, even on Fox News, they were repeating that if you did these tariffs, your prices were going to go up even more. So this is what happens when we all sing the same chorus, when we're all together and unified. And I think we should be, especially as members of Congress, looking for that unity and pushing for that unity. And again, what you said, Andrew, stepping out of the ego. And so I always encourage people, if you're mad at an activist or something, just go on Elon's Twitter and get mad at him, because these are the people we really need to be directing our anger to. And I'm honestly quite happy that there's all this energy, because now we have an opportunity to build our movement. And guess what? That will help us in the midterms too, right? The work you do now helps you then. You got to show people.
The midterms only matter for y'all if you earn it. And if people don't see you fighting like hell right now, they're not going to be motivated to show up, stand in line, and cast a vote for anybody. And Congressman, I'm going to act like a staffer now and let you know that it's time for you to go.
You got to go
because
to that
you've got a busy job.
I appreciate it. Last thing I will say. A lot of people are taking lessons from this election, lessons from Donald Trump on kind of how he did this whole thing. And the one thing I think people are not talking about is just how much this guy loves showing love to his base. And I think that is really something as Democrats we can't let go of, right? I mean, look, I hate Donald Trump, but this guy held a rally before his inauguration for his people, like just for his people to rah-rah. And I think we can't lose sight of what makes the Democratic Party the Democratic Party. That's all I got to say. Much love, y'all. I appreciate you having me on.
We'll be watching and following you. We want to encourage you to continue to stiffen your spine and stand strong, man. You'll never go wrong there. And we need fighters and champions like you. So good luck.
And
Thank you. God bless y'all.
We got your
back.
And
we got your back. That's for sure.
Thank you.
Take care, Congressman.
Native Land Pod is a production of iHeart Radio in partnership with Reason Choice Media. For more podcasts from iHeart Radio, visit the iHeart Radio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.